Hey, Emily, what's up?
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course, thanks for calling. What's up? How can I help?
My husband we've been married for 8-9 years now, and my husband ends up, whenever he has something difficult that he needs to talk about or any confrontation, he texts me instead of talking to me, and it makes it difficult for us to build our emotional intimacy. And so I'm basically trying to understand what I can do, because obviously I can't control my husband. But what's something that I can do to build that emotional intimacy and help him to feel safe, so then that way he can talk to me instead of texting me if ever there's a difficult conversation.
Yeah, that's my first impulse is one of two things. Either, my goodness, after a decade, how are we just now getting to the fact that your husband is as emotionally immature? I had a conversation with my child, like my middle school child, about text etiquette. And in fact, we went on a long ruck, me and my son, this weekend in the woods, like for miles. And we talked about hey, don't ever text something important. Those are for in-person. Don't text somebody, hey, I like you. Like, that's an in-person conversation to have. And it's just me trying to teach him how to be like a grown-up, right? So it's either that, or you have helped co-create a world where, man, he better not tell you what he needs or have a hard conversation because you blow up on him, or you get cold on him, or you change the dynamic. Which one is it? Maybe it's a combination of both.
I think it's a little bit of a combination of both.
Okay.
I think what happens is he tells me, he kind of like blindsides me a little bit. One example is like he has a porn addiction, and he was really clean for quite a while, and then he relapsed. And so instead of like talking to me and having a difficult conversation face to face, he told me via text. And so I honestly believe like the opposite of addiction is connection. And so I was basically just trying to say, hey, I love you. I'm here for you. Like, you're not alone. At the same time, though, I wanted to express my feelings. And oftentimes he takes that as like an attack. And it's not that I'm attacking him, but basically I'm saying like, look, like, I don't like the lies and the deceit. Like, it's not like the addiction itself, is the thing that like is underlying. And it's really frustrating to me that like there's those lies and deceit. And so maybe it's my approach to.
Well, but hold on. Do you respond to him in text with that?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's on you. That's on you.
Yeah.
So I mean, if he has the courage to, and again, I'm using courage very liberally here, right? But I'm thinking of a guy who has no skills, and on how to say out loud, hey, I screwed something up, or hey, we've been working on something. I've been working on something. I know we've been down this road before. Here we are again, right?
Yeah.
And having a wife, it's like, well, oh my gosh, if you like, I'm just gonna text it. Hey, I slipped up and screwed up. If your response is, thank you so much for telling me, I can't wait till we can talk about this in person. I'll get the kids to bed tonight. Let's plan for 9:00. That is a much different than you're the one responding with the emotional stuff. He's just giving you data.
Yeah, you're right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And so I guess if I'm you, this is going to sound backwards, and you might get pissed at me. So if you do, like, come back, okay? Tell me I'm an idiot. But if we're trying to solve this issue, okay, is the intimacy issue. And by the way, the opposite of addiction is connection. That's some great ideas from Johann Hari. I love the idea. It's more complex than that. I think it's a good place to start, but it's not apples to apples, right? But I do think, yes, getting rid of secrets in our home is a good place to start. And people who struggle with pornography are often struggling with not just wanting to get off. They're struggling with being completely alone or having a life where they are dead. Like they're not alive in the life they have, right? And so it's a way to get your heart rate up and also not blow your marriage completely up, right? Or so they think. So yes, I agree with you, but let's do this. Let's solve for the connection piece. And the only way you can connect with another human being is to be vulnerable with him, period.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you're using words to connect vulnerably or you are shoulder to shoulder, both digging a hole and you're both sweating and you're both exhausted and you see somebody like getting after it and you getting after it. That's how men often show vulnerability to each other. That's still vulnerable. That's still like I'm putting myself out there, right? So you call him or get in touch with him in person and say, hey, I'm sorry. Like I've made having this hard conversation, are you admitting something? Are you telling me something hard? I've made it really difficult on you and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask you if you need to text something cool, but I'd love you to text, hey, we need to talk tonight at 9:00. That would be better. How does that sound?
Yeah, no, I think that's something that I can control. And I think that would definitely improve our emotional intimacy. And it's something that I can handle that and I can change kind of the story.
It will feel like you're not winning though.
Yeah.
Because when he puts data on the table, I looked at porn again last night and I'm so sorry. And you can bomb him with emotional reactivity. It feels good in that little moment, right? It feels righteous. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you're going to have to let your power go on this because the goal is not to, I told you so, or you should have. The goal is a safe, warm home.
Yeah.
And if he continues to violate you in that same, like your agreements, your values, if he continues, this isn't a free pass. It is a safe and warm, hey, I'm not going to be a part of this.
Yeah.
But it's understanding that emotional reactivity almost solves nothing ever, right? ever. Yeah. I'll also say this, probably 5 to 10 times, I'm thinking back just real quick over the top of my head, I have written a letter and read it to my wife.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't want my thoughts to get all jumbled up and me to start spinning. And if you've listened to this show for more than one episode, you know I just can kind of ramble sometimes. So I've written it down, but that allowed me to get all my thoughts out. And then I set the letter down, and now we're connected. And so I think that can be a helpful tool sometimes. It just can't be used in exchange for actual human connection there.
Yeah. No, definitely. I appreciate the honesty. I'd rather you be honest and not sugarcoat things. And that's one of the reasons why I just love listening to your show.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
I would love to see you respond with, let's talk about this tonight at 9:00. You put a date on it. You put a time on it. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And that's it.
Yeah.
And that also gives you some time to get really, really mad and fired up and angry. I don't want that part of you to be gone. If you're a fiery person, you're a fiery person. That's why he married you. But it's not helpful when somebody's feeling ashamed about something.
Yeah.
And it may be
I never want him to feel like I'm fueling that shame or that guilt because
right.
I love him and I want to connect with him. But yeah, I can definitely see how I have been kind of fueling that instead of taking ownership and saying, hey, look, like, let's talk about this later tonight.
I also want to throw something else out there. Is this cool?
Yeah.
I want you, I've been hearing this more and more and more. And there's some calls that I take that don't make the air because I botch them in some way, or it doesn't work out. But in their private conversations that I have too.
Mm-hmm.
This idea of my husband's a pornography addict. That's how you introduced him to me.
Yeah.
And it can create a world where, it's just kind of just the way he is. And I reject that. And so I think it's fair to say, if you're going to stay my husband, you're going to stop looking at pornography. If that means we get rid of the internet connection in this house, if that means we cancel every subscription, that means you get rid of your smartphone. I don't care what we have to do. If you're going to be married to me, this thing matters to me so much, it's not an option for you.
Yeah.
And if you have to go to 30-day inpatient rehab, whatever you think you have to do, You see what I'm saying? Because the way you described it to me sounded like this inevitable passivity.
Yeah.
Well, he's just a guy that hits me sometimes when he gets mad, and I don't really like it. Like, no, right? Don't do that. So, well, he just has got an addiction to this. No, he's a guy who is struggling with X, Y, or Z. Can you get addicted to pornography? Absolutely. Is that an excuse? No, it's not. Just not.
Yeah. No, I definitely appreciate the candor and the honesty. And I think that is a difficult conversation I need to have. I know he was clean for about, a year or two, but then I'm noticing like some signs, and I kind of addressed it to him. I said, "Hey, I'm kind of noticing X, Y, and Z. Like, have you been looking at porn again?" And he's like, No, I haven't. And then a couple months later, he's like, "Actually, I have."
Right.
And that's when I was feeling like, oh my gosh, like I'm more mad about the fact that he lied to me when I confronted him about it rather than him relapsing.
Right.
So, but I do need to.
But hey, you're allowed to be upset about that. You're allowed to be royally pissed off about that.
Thank you.
Don't think that I'm telling you not to be.
Yeah.
And he's gonna have consequences, right? Like that's part of it also. But that anger is simply pointing you to a place. It means you care about something, right? Yeah. And then the next question is, what are we going to do about it? And so you get to look him in the eye and say, if you lie to me again, you have to leave.
Yeah.
Because it makes you question everything, right? It makes you question that relationship that he has with that coworker that's kind of funny and kind of flirty, but you just blow it off. It makes you question how he spends money. It makes you question everything.
Yeah.
Way more so than him going to website X, Y, or Z.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So I the takeaways for me here are you stop responding to him in text. You give him a date and time when we're going to talk about this in person.
Yes.
And in almost a context. Cool. I'm going to take care of this and this. You get the dishes. I'm going to put the kids to bed, and then we're going to have this conversation. And then the next one is if he starts talking and you feel yourself getting emotionally reactive, say, from this point forward, I've made an unsafe place for you to talk, and I'm sorry. I might put my hand on the table and say, I need 5 minutes. I'm going to go walk around the house. I'm going to go outside in the backyard and just take a lap around the backyard, and then I'm going to come back. But you can't leave me either, right? And so let's just set some ground rules up for communication and some back and forth. But I think y'all are on the right path. Do I think you need to apologize for the fact that he is struggling with pornography? No, not at all. I think an apology will get you I've participated in this context where you can't put stuff on the table, and I'm going to quit doing that. I get so mad at you for talking to me in text, and I respond to you with these long, massive texts. I'm going to quit doing that. Let him know this behavior is stopping and this one is beginning so that everybody's on the same page. Man, I think you rock and roll from there. Good on you, Emily. Thanks for the call. Your call is really going to help a lot of people. Your candor and just your honesty. Thank you so much for that.